Are you sheltering in place, isolated, feeling alone? Well, then you're just like us.
Hit me.
From Studio P in Sausalito, the home of the quarantined hit, it's time for...
Succotash.
Succotash Shut-In, the Soundcast stimulus package featuring snippets from comedy...
Soundcasts.
And now, here's your host for this episode, Tyson Saner.
Insaner.
Saluton, estos me, Tyson Saner. I'm your every other week host of this program that is currently called Succotash Shut-In. Welcome to episode 242. Last week on episode 241, Crossing the Pond, show creator and every other week host Mark Hershon brought you a quartet of clips from soundcasts from England that we had not featured before in Succotash Shut-In, or Succotash the Comedy Soundcast as this program needs to be called. The shows clipped in question are Looks Familiar, The Cheap Show, Rule of Three, and the Adam Buxton Podcast. It's a fun episode, and you can still find it at our home site at www.succotashshow.com, as well as on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, The Laughable App, and wherever soundcasts are found and streamed and or downloaded. This show I've put together for you is comprised of a trio of clips from mostly places around the USA. Other than that, there really isn't a theme per se. February is almost over, and it will be March when the show is published. I don't know why I mention things like that. I suppose it's because I appreciate it when I hear podcasters say what date it is somewhere in the course of an episode for context. It's February 26th right now. When I record this will probably be the 28th, and when it goes up, presumably on a Tuesday, as it seems to be doing with the most frequency lately, that Tuesday will be March 2nd, 2021. There. Now you have a very specific snapshot in time in your mind that you may have lived during, and maybe you know what you were doing on what is currently, quote, this coming Tuesday, unquote. Perhaps you were listening to this? Well, you're listening now, and I appreciate it. Tonight's clips are from Valley Boys Podcast, the Dinner Party Download, and the Record Store Day Podcast with Paul Myers. There's also a spot from our longtime fake sponsor, Henderson's Pants, to look forward to as well. Let's get to that clippage. Our first clip is from Valley Boys Podcast by Dave Weasel and Brandon Collins. Its description says, two unlikely best friends, Dave Weasel and Brandon Collins, fight about everything. One is a cuckservative douchebag, the other a liberal comedian and handsome devil, and writer of this bio. The clip is from February 4th, 2021. It's from their 30th episode called Dirty 30, and in it, it says, the boys discuss Dave's foiled plot to start an OnlyFans scheme. Brandon argues his prostitute habit over dating. Jeong Newsom, and Biden's first 2 weeks. The clip featured is a little game that apparently they've played before.
Dirty 30, baby.
Oh, fuck, we're coming of age finally.
30 episodes in, yeah, we're going to start taking aspirin even when we're not hungover. Join with me is my assistant, Brandon Collins.
Man, I've been on a streak lately, being the assistant, man. I've worked my way up in the world.
No, that's a demotion, because sometimes you're the sidekick. Sometimes you're my sidekick, other times, like now, you're my assistant.
Yeah, it just sounds formal. I'm all about it, but...
I mean, you're a good friend. You came and picked me up. You had an energy drink for me. That's a good friend. And also, like a good friend, you farted like 3 seconds before I got in the car. That's what friends do. It's disgusting.
Hey, share and share alike, baby. Hey, speaking of weird and disgusting people, are you ready to go ahead and jump into Florida, California, or Canada, man?
Yes.
All right, well, fantastic.
Real quick, for new listeners, if you haven't heard this before, Brandon reads 3 headlines. I have to guess whether it comes from Florida, Canada, or California, and any one of them could be used any number of times. So there is no process of elimination.
Yeah, crazy bastards. They love to pop up out of nowhere. All right, let's go with the first headline here. Man tries to board flight with 22 pounds of meth. Did that happen? Yeah.
Florida, fucking Florida. I didn't have to cheat.
No, it's absolutely low-hanging fruit, but I couldn't help it. Like, that had to go on the dock. Yeah. Fucking idiot, too. Like, he was going through TSA, got pulled for a random bag check, and, of course, they found the fucking meth in there, $900 cash, and he's like, it wasn't my bag. He's like, I was on another plane, and when I was sleeping, and when I woke up, the bag was there, and it kind of looked like mine, but this one isn't mine. So he's in jail on pending charges right now. So shout out to that dude for ingenuity and trying, but try a little harder next time, I guess.
22 pounds, though, dude. Just rent a car.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Do you realize how much 22 pounds is worth according to the article?
What?
$500,000 street value.
God damn. See, I was on the wrong path going with OnlyFans. I need to get in the meth game, man.
Dude, staying on the straight and narrow never works out. Everyone who follows the rules always gets fucked.
Dude, it's pandemic. There is no straight and narrow. We're all selling our bodies or drugs. I'm trying to do both.
Yeah,
well, as of right now. Now I'm into meth. How does somebody get started selling meth? Like, you have to know someone.
I don't know. Maybe you start out using, and then you just, like, work your way into the company or something like that, you know?
Right, yeah.
It's like a stoner going into a pot shop, and then you get hired to, like, start doing trimming and shit like that, deliveries, whatever, you know?
You work for product.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Just like us, baby.
Yeah, that's right, man.
All right, what's next?
Okay, next one. Man robbed restaurant that refused him service for not wearing mask. Did that happen in
California?
Florida? California. Absolutely. Are you cheating over there? You
I am not cheating this time.
Okay.
California, because we don't fuck around with that mask shit.
Yeah, but here's the crazy thing. This is why I threw this particular story in the docket. Dude didn't ask for money. He went into a restaurant and was asked to put a mask on because he didn't have one on. And he decided that the best course of action at that point was, fuck you, I'm not putting the mask on. By the way, I'm robbing you. So he fucking pulled out a gun and robbed the place, but just for food.
Oh, yeah, that was in Pasadena.
Yes.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, chicken place, right?
Yeah.
Roscoe's.
And all he did was just grab like 2 bags of food and then like fucking took off, and I guess police chased him, but they lost him getting on the freeway. So
Jesus Christ.
So sometimes there is such a thing as a free lunch.
Holy shit, dude. Yeah. That's amazing. Imagine that he's in jail for robbery, and they're going around the table saying like, what'd you get? What'd you get? And this guy's like, I stole chicken.
Yeah.
They're like, well, so what's the next thing?
All right, so our last one of the evening. Police search for man who drove off with vaccines. Did that happen in Florida, California, or Canada?
Read that to me one more time. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Police search for man who drove off with vaccines.
I feel like California, I don't think... That is a Canadian crime. Whoever did it was probably just trying to distribute it to the poor, some kind of Robin Hood shit, which sounds Canadian because we're awesome. So, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. 1, 2, 3. We're going with Canada.
Nope. Headed right back to the sunshine state of Florida.
Oh, okay, I would have guessed California was my other one.
Yeah, and... so the guy didn't just steal the vaccines. He stole a car that had the vaccines in them.
Okay.
Yeah, and the story didn't say whether or not he knew they were in there. It's just like... Oh.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Because people steal cars with children in it, and they go, oh, shit, you know?
Yeah, like me. I would just, like, jump out, or I'd return the car. It's like, sorry, I ain't fucking taking this
Right,
thing,
yeah. Well, because that's a totally different crime, you know?
Yeah.
It's like robbing a bank versus robbing a chicken store, a chicken restaurant.
You can find the show on Twitter at Valley Boys Pod. That is all lowercase VALLEYBOYSPOD. You can find Dave Weasel at capital DAVE, capital WEASEL. And you can find Brandon Collins at all lowercase ELOSOBLANCO, numeral 6, numeral 9. And one of the places you can find them on the web is thevalleyboys.podbean.com. That is Bean, BEAN, PODBEAN. Next up, the Dinner Party Download from American Public Media. The description says, welcome to the Dinner Party Download, a fast and funny hour of culture, food, and conversation. Quote, public radio arts and leisure section, unquote. In every episode, you'll learn a joke, bone up on an odd bit of history, and then wash it down with a themed cocktail recipe. Meet artists of note, have your burning etiquette questions answered, savor an emerging food trend, and hear your new favorite song. Plus, unconventional wisdom from hosts Rick Gagliano and Brendan Francis Newman. So, this clip is from a episode that was originally broadcast on September 5th, 2014. And this is an encore broadcast that was done on November 17th, 2017. The show is no longer in production, but I believe they have new projects. But the clips from episode 269 is featuring Mel Brooks, Greta Gerwig, and A.C. Newman. So its description says, comedy legend Mel Brooks reanimates, quote, young Frankenstein, unquote, then offers priceless etiquette advice. And then in parentheses it says, warning may include death threats, flatulence, gallows humor, and uncontrollable laughter. End parentheses. Actress Greta Gerwig, from Frances Ha and Mistress America, tries a love story on for size. And A.C. Newman of indie rock supergroup The New Pornographers spins a party soundtrack that's so cool. The clip I've provided is from part of the interview with comedy legend Mel Brooks.
Let's hear from our guest of honor, Mr. Mel Brooks. Brendan introduced him like this.
He began his career in stand-up and as a writer for Sid Caesar's groundbreaking TV comedy series Your Show of Shows. He went on to form a duo with one of the show's writers, Carl Reiner, and scored a massive hit with their routine, The 2,000-Year-Old Man. And then Mel went on to write and direct what are considered some of the funniest movies ever, including The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein. This year is the 40th anniversary of that parody of classic monster movies, and a new edition is being released on Blu-ray on September 9th, the day after he sticks his hands and feet in wet cement in front of Hollywood's famed Chinese theater. And Mel, it's an honor to have you.
Well, look, Brendan.
Yes?
You've covered it. I don't have to talk. That's it. You've said
Great.
All right.
You've said everything I was going to say.
It's been nice having you.
And even you could say bigger and better things about me, but that's okay.
Oh.
Let me help you a little bit.
Okay.
You say, I can't effing believe who I am talking to.
That's true,
This
actually.
guy is an effing legend. When I left the house today, a neighbor said to me, isn't that guy dead? And I said, well, I don't know, I hope not. I'm going to talk to him in 10 minutes.
But you bring up a
Anyway,
good point. You are a legend. R2-D2 is a fictional character. He has his feet in the cement in the Chinese theater, and you don't?
Well, I'm really a little worried about it. I heard that Jeanette MacDonald, she was a very famous opera singer.
Yes.
She was in a great movie with Clark Gable called San Francisco.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I heard when she got her hands and feet in the cement, she actually got stuck. And they had to, they had to cut her shoes away to get her feet out.
Oh, no.
Oh, my
And
God.
so I'm wearing my cheapest shoes in case they have to be cut away.
Yeah, or just coat them with butter so that they just slide out real easy after you're done.
Okay, well, I don't know. Olive oil may be cheap.
All right.
But I'll coat them with something. That's a good idea.
So we want to play a clip from Young Frankenstein, which you
Great,
co-wrote
great.
with your star Gene Wilder.
Hey, everybody, come in here. They're going to play a clip from Young Frankenstein.
But there's too much good stuff to choose from. So we'd like you to pick what's your favorite, ideally non-visual, gag in the movie.
One of my favorites has a great pause in it. It's Marty Feldman at the dinner table. It starts actually with Dr. Frankenstein
Yeah.
Yes.
saying, reputation. He's so unhappy because his experiment didn't work. The monster did not come to life.
Yeah, Frankenstein
Yeah.
monster.
And then Marty Feldman, who plays Igor, says,
I'll never forget my old dad. When these things would happen to him, the things he'd say to me.
and then he didn't talk. So we all waited. I don't know whether Marty Feldman, as Igor, was using the right tempo, taking his time, or simply forgot what he had to say next. We waited 2 minutes. And then Gene said, what did he say?
What did he say?
Marty says something like,
What the hell are you doing in the bathroom day and night? Why don't you get out of there? Give someone else a chance.
it's the craziest scene. It was very difficult. I got to tell you guys a secret.
Yep.
Okay.
The minute we started shooting, the crew, the grips and the sound people and the camera people, they'd break up and you could hear them laughing, they try to muffle it through their fingers. So the first day I sent the assistant director out, and I literally, this is all true, and I said, go to a department store and buy 1,000 handkerchiefs. So he went out and he bought 1,000 white handkerchiefs. And I said to the crew, every time you get an urge to break up, to laugh, stick this white handkerchief in your mouth. And every once in a while, when I knew things were funny, I would turn around, I'd see a sea, maybe 1,000 white handkerchiefs. And I'd say, okay, that's going to be a hit. And In this one, we all lived with white handkerchiefs in our mouths with this scene. It was amazing.
So is it your favorite scene because it's hilarious on the page and on the screen, or because of that moment off screen, do you think?
It's a combination, because, first of all, it has nothing to do with the problem of creating a living human being from inanimate pieces taken from the graveyard. Nothing to what does get out of the bathroom, give someone else a chance, have anything to do with what the experiment that was going on in Frankenstein's castle.
It's absurd. It's
absurd. That's what I love. I love everything that's absurd.
So Mel, this, like so many other of your films, is a parody. With your TV series Get Smart, you parodied the spy genre, Blazing Saddles the Western, Young Frankenstein the horror film. What attracted you to parody?
The frames of reference. The kids would understand what I was doing. Once they'd seen the picture, especially Spaceballs, once they saw the picture,
you're satirizing,
they knew what the takeoff was, what the satire was.
Yeah.
So it made things a lot easier than creating. Let's say I did a movie later on called Life Stinks, and there were no frames of reference. It was just, if you were very poor and you lived in urine-filled alleys somewhere in a bad neighborhood, you'd understand what the movie was about. But I wanted to say something about the inequity of life, especially in big cities.
So you can find the show at Dinner Party DNLD. That is DINNERPARTY DNLD. Mel Brooks can still be found on Twitter at capital MEL, capital BROOKS. Rico Gagliano can be found at capital RICO, capital GAGLIANO, and Brendan Francis can be found at capital B, capital F, capital N, EWNAM. And apparently, you can find the Dinner Party Download archived over at www.dinnerpartydownload.org.
Hello, friends. Bill Haywatt here with some timely fashion news. If you or someone you know is in imminent danger of being kidnapped, shanghaied, or abducted by aliens, Henderson's new ransom pants are just the right style statement you need to make to get yourself out of a sticky situation. Our research reveals that the number one complaint of abductees is not that they miss their loved ones and friends, but that it's always so darned uncomfortable. Well, not anymore. If and when you're taken, you'll appreciate the loose fit and padded seat of these handsome ransom pants. They'll bring you great comfort, no matter if you're trussed up in the back of a van, the trunk of a car, or the cargo hold of a hyperdimensional spacecraft. And there's more comfort waiting inside these pants. The roomy legs are lined with secret pockets you can fill with energy bars and puzzle books to fill the idle time waiting to be rescued. And rescue won't be far away, thanks to the homing tracker built into the ransom pants waistband. Then, just in case no one cares enough about you to be following the tracker's signal and you're left to get yourself out of the mess you found yourself in, pay your own way. That's right, the ultimate secret of Henderson's ransom pants is that comfortable seat you've been sitting on is padded with $1 million in warm, comfy cash. Just drop trow, pay your kidnappers, and be on your way. Originally designed for Patty Hearst, enemies of La Cosa Nostra, as well as Barney and Betty Hill, Henderson's ransom pants may be just the ticket to get you an early release and back home in time for dinner. That's Henderson's, makers of fine pants parts since 1932. And now back to Succotash.
Thank you, Bill Haywatt. Our final clip this evening is from the Record Store Day podcast with Paul Myers. And its description says, from the people who created Record Store Day, the Record Store Day podcast with Paul Myers is an informative record store-centric interview show featuring conversations with great guests talking about records, record stores, and experiences in the physical retail space. And this clip is from a show from February 22nd, 2021, from, looks like Rhye, R-H-Y-E, Dana Gould, and David Swider, I believe. And in parentheses it says, the end of all music. So in the show description, it says, Michael Milosh talks about his band Rhye, I have listened to this episode, by the way. I cannot remember, but I believe that's how it is pronounced. And their new album, Home, Loma Vista. Emmy-winning comedian Dana Gould talks about his favorite comedy albums and his new Planet of the Apes-inspired YouTube talk show, Hanging with Dr. Z. And David Swider calls in from featured indie store The End of All Music in Oxford, Mississippi. And Carrie Colleton phones in from Record Store Day HQ in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, I chose this clip because I used to get comedy albums to listen to at the local record store, including Bill Cosby albums, Dr. Demento issues, and Firesign Theater. Pretty much whatever I could get that I was interested in. I loved listening to comedy on vinyl.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
You're listening to the unmistakable strains of a soundtrack album that I wore out years ago. That's Jerry Goldsmith's original score to the 1968 original Planet of the Apes. I'm playing this because our next guest is the Emmy Award-winning writer for The Simpsons, creator of the series Stan Against Evil, and one of my favorite stand-up comedians, Dana Gould. You know, I was chatting with Dana recently, and I told him about this podcast and how it's about records and record stores, and he said that one of the things he got in record stores was comedy albums, and especially a certain era when certain vinyl comedy albums changed the face of comedy. And coincidentally, he told me that he's got a new web series called Hanging with Dr. Z, in which he plays Dr. Zaius from the original Planet of the Apes. And it's hard to describe, and you really just have to see it. It's incredibly funny, and it's a talk show with Dr. Zaius hosting it. Anyway, we talked for quite a while, but I took an excerpt of the conversation so we could talk about comedy vinyl albums and Dr. Zaius. So here's Emmy Award-winning Simpsons writer Dana Gould on the Record Store Day podcast. Welcome, Dana Gould.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm really good, and I like it when we have people who are not musicians per se, although I haven't asked you about whether you're a musician, but who aren't known for being a musician, because it's also part of the whole Record Store Day thing, is people who love records and love music are, you know, welcome to come and talk about those things. And I know that you and I have talked. I know that you were on another podcast talking about the Pixies, and you and I have talked about the Replacements. And
you need to do a comedy album episode.
Oh, that would be great, because those are records.
Well, I still have mine from my comedy education when I was in high school. And I didn't even think of this, but you know, the albums that resonate with you. Like, I remember when I was in when I heard This Year's Model, that's like a demarcation line,
right,
for me. You know, it's like, oh, this, got it.
Yeah.
Class Clown, George Carlin's Class Clown, as important to me as This Year's Model.
Right.
In a different way. And I still have it with the gate, you know, so it's very important.
Comedy albums, a huge part. I mean, Python, I read this later, that Monty Python, I assumed that it was the TV show going on PBS in the States and in CBC in Canada that really opened it up. But it was really FM radio playing the Python albums. Eric Idle said that, yeah.
I didn't know that. I had Live at City Center.
Matching Tie and Handkerchief that had the third side, right?
Right, and Monty Python's Contractual Obligation album. And it is, you know, because, again, we're, me being, having grown up in the 70s, there wasn't cable, and I was a kid, so that was where you heard people, it's where you heard swears.
Yes.
And, you know.
Especially with Carlin, yeah,
especially with Carlin
and words.
And Richard Pryor.
Oh, right.
You know, in 1978, I was 14 years old in 1978, and every single kid had Steve Martin's Let's Get Small.
Yes.
It was standard issue. Like, you get that and some sneakers and a bike. Like every kid had the same thing. And I really, you know, wanted to be a comedian, so I really went down a rabbit hole with it. And I had older brothers that also had, like, Cheech and Chong albums were very They're huge.
Crossover, right? They completely straddle the middle of being both rock and roll and comedy.
Right. And that was the difference, because there were comedians like Bob Hope, the people that were big at the time. But then these other comedians had albums, which made them more like rock and roll stars, which made it much more appealing to a kid. It was like George Carlin wasn't like Milton Berle. Like, to me, not only did they look different, but George Carlin was the people that I liked. He swore and he had an album and he was like a rock star, but he just wasn't musical. He was talking, and it was just like, it was a whole different level of fame and notoriety and the drag about that albums used to be special for comedians.
Right.
It's like it was a big deal if you had an album. And now you have, people that make an album of their first set. It's like, it doesn't really, that's sort of gone the way of the dodo. But yeah, the Carlin albums, the Pryor albums.
Robin Williams had an album too. That was
Reality, What a Concept.
Yeah.
Was Reality that? Yeah. That was huge. They were huge.
So now it doesn't look like the show has a Twitter, but you can find Dana Gould on Twitter at lowercase DANAGOULD. Paul Myers is at what looks like Pull My Ears, which is actually spelled PUL, single L, MYEARS. And for this particular episode, if you go to recordstoreday.com and then /C custom, capital PAGE page, /9207, then I guess you can find this episode. I've been to recordstoreday.com and it doesn't take you to this show. You have to search a bit, but that's a good place to start. And also you can go to Paul Meyer's Twitter feed, and he posts links to his programs. Welcome to the end of the show. I do hope it provided you with a bit of entertainment. We here at Succotash Shut-In have been dropping episodes of this sort of, hey, here's some things you might want to listen to more of content in some form or another for almost 10 years now. Sometimes it is mind-boggling to think of how much cumulative content is stored in the archives at www.succotashshow.com. Whew, so many shows clipped and folks spoken to at various points in their existences, which is a result of so much listening to other people speak, sometimes at great length, to find that perfect, or surely good enough, moment that we have decided to feature in the tasting plate or Whitman sampler aesthetic that is what this program has mostly been, when it hasn't been about chatting with some of Soundcasting's most interesting personalities, that is. By the way, I don't think that I'm the king of run-on sentences, but I'm at least peerage. Next week, Mark Hershon will be your host for episode 243, and he will have more for you to enjoy. So until we meet again, please wash your hands, wear a mask in public, be respectful of each other's anxiety as best as you can, and if someone anywhere in the world, including on Twitter or whatever social media platform you use to communicate with, asks you if you've heard any good or interesting podcasts lately, yes, they will probably say podcasts still, if they haven't been listening to us. In which case, would you please pass the succotash?
You've been listening to Succotash Shut-In, the Soundcast Stimulus Package, with your host, Tyson Sainer. Brought to you by Henderson's Pants and...
Imagine your company's name right here.
Find us on the web at succotashshow.com, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on the Laughable app, and tattooed on your mother's rear end. You can hear us streaming and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Succotash Show. Email us at tyson@succotashshow.com or call into the Succotash Skype line at our toll call number 818-921-7212.
That number again is 818-921-7212.
You can also upload clips from your favorite comedy soundcasts directly to us using our direct upload link at hightail.com/u/succotash. Production of Succotash is overseen by Joe Paulino through the auspices of Studio P. Sausalito, the home of the hit. Our hosts are Mark Hershon and Tyson Sainer. Our musical director is Scott Carvey. Our booth assistant is still Kenny Durgis. And until next time, I'm your loyal booth announcer, Bill Haywatt, reminding you to please wash your hands and pass the succotash. Goodbye. This has been a Succotash Patch production.